Hello, good day and shalom to you all. We have here a special ambassadorial conversation with the ambassador, Madam Ambassador, Dr. Susanne Wasum-Rainer, the German ambassador in Israel. Hello to you.
Shalom.
Shalom, shalom. And the Israeli ambassador to Germany, Jeremy Issacharoff. Shalom, shalom.
Shalom. Shalom.
In Berlin. In Berlin. All of us in the Zoom meeting. My name is David Witzthum. I am a journalist, a writer. I specialize in German history. And I will moderate this discussion, this discussion. But let me say a few things just as an introduction. These days are, of course, dramatic, but already there are signs of normalcy. Who would have thought? And contemplation. Have we seen such drama, such catastrophe before? And both in Israel and in Germany, the thoughts go back to May 1945, 75 years ago. Looking back from our present, we see that even then, reconstruction and return to normalcy were much faster than the common fears and forecasts. Cooperation between our states, then West Germany and Israel, began a few years later. Its symbol occurred 60 years ago exactly, the summit between Prime Minister Ben-Gurion and Chancellor Konrad Adenauer on March 14 in New York, preceding the diplomatic relations in 1965. Relations have deepened and broadened since. In Israel, I've heard the term alliance, and from Chancellor Merkel, the term German reasoned state as to Israel's security. But cooperation and networks of connections exist at all levels of society, culture, science, youth exchange, as well as humanistic missions. Differences do exist, of course, but there are so many channels now to air them and continue in the common road. All these without forgetting the horrors of the Nazi past and the ongoing responsibility to guard our societies against the ever-present danger and extremism, hatred and racism, with its many faces, as both states' president, Rivlin and Steinmeier, have been speaking about recently. So I think this is a kind of introduction, and we can just go into the discussion and go to you, Madam Ambassador. How has the Corona crisis changed your schedule, change your priorities, is being heard by Israelis that you listen to and you talk to?
Well, of course, the Corona crisis changed dramatically the way we were working and also what we were doing. At the beginning, our consulate played an enormously important role when we had to help Germans in Israel who were stranded here as tourists, but also Germans in the West Bank or in Gaza to go back to Germany. What we also did, and which was a lot of joy for us to do, is to support Israeli citizens in areas, in remote areas, when we repatriated Germans to take them with us, and via Frankfurt they could return to Israel. There was also the way how we worked changed dramatically. Like all the Israeli institutions, we started a remote homework. We started all those conferences in a digital mode. I mean, this is maybe one of the positive consequences of the crisis, that I'm now sitting together with Jeremy and we are having this kind of celebration for 55 years of diplomatic relations. On, the way we are doing it now, maybe we wouldn't have thought about 2 months ago. Mm-hmm. It was also very moving and touching to see how the German embassy and I myself were involved in, the Holocaust Remembrance Day, in celebrations of a totally other kind. So I was participating the day before yesterday in a in a prize ceremony for young Israeli scientists, and that worked terribly well. I mean, they had presented fascinating proposals, and my cat is coming, and we could have the ceremony all together in the Bloomfield Museum in Jerusalem. So this is just part of an answer.
Yes. So let me ask you, Mr. Ambassador, the same question from your side, from your point.
Well, we, first of all, I think rapidly adapted to the new situation. Unfortunately, we had to close the embassy for 2 weeks as myself and my deputy were infected, and thank God I've since been found negative with this virus, but we kind of like started in a very tough way. We closed the embassy for 2 weeks, but we were working very much from home. And the whole of the embassy, the staff of the embassy, as my distinguished colleague in Israel was saying, we were working very hard to try and help German citizens be able to leave the West Bank and also from Gaza. There was a tremendous amount of cooperation with the German government here in bringing back Israeli citizens from all over the world, from New Zealand to Latin America. And it really was, I think, for me, you really test the friendship in times of crisis, and this showed to me even more how strong the relations were. And I think also Susanne will agree that that we were able also to begin. I think the ambassador herself began a conversation about exit strategies with our people in the foreign ministry. We're talking about many different aspects of dealing with the corona crisis. And a lot of people have been saying to me, well, Israel and Germany have done so well, and you're the two most successful countries in dealing with this. You know, I'm not sure if I hope we will be worthy of this award, but I think it's very important to continue to have these discussions between our two countries, to look to new horizons in terms of not only exit strategies, but one of the key factors of any exit strategy would be to pursue vaccines that can help prevent any further outbreak of this virus. And here, I think that Germany and Israel, one of the things that's incredibly impressed me since I've been in this job, and something that doesn't necessarily get a lot of play in the news, is the tremendous cooperation between our advanced scientific research facilities and the German research facilities of the same order. And I think it's quite impressive just how much these bodies work together. And in fact, it's really interesting. You mentioned before that the relationship formally only started in 1965 with formal diplomatic relations. But I think it's very true that these relations, and actually in scientific exchanges, were very much a foregoer of the actual diplomatic relationship, and remain today, in my opinion, one of the pillars, a very strong pillar of the relationship. So yes, hopefully it'll also serve us at this time.
Yes, let me turn back to you, Madam Ambassador, and ask you about what Ambassador Issacharoff was already speaking about, the exit strategies in the two countries. You know, we are really waiting economy as opposed to perhaps medical considerations and other considerations. Have the exit strategies been very different in Israel and in Germany?
Well, first of all, let me underline how impressively the crisis itself was dealt with by the Israeli population. Both our countries, we are both OECD countries, and in both our countries, the crisis was handled, or the impact of the crisis was like moderate, if I may say so. Although, and this is also to be underlined, the demographic situation of both our countries are so totally different. Israel is a very young society, whereas in Germany the situation is different. The percentage of the population above 60 is much, much bigger than in Israel. So when it comes at the beginning of the crisis, Israel was very, very fast in implementing very strong restrictions and measures, and we saw the positive results of that. And as in Germany, in Germany we have now 60 Länder coping with how to do the exit from the closure. So we are both our governments are aware that this is a trial and error, and we have to open and we have to weigh the enormous impact on the economy against the impact on the general health situation. So it will be a trial and error phase now, that we open the bits and pieces, that we continue to respect all the hygienic regulations that we introduced, and we will see how this is going to develop. We have all those mathematical research also going on. So when there will be within 7 days more than 50 people in an area of 100,000, we would have to go back to stronger restrictions. So this is being applied in Israel and in Germany, and in both countries we say this has to be probably a regional approach, that in those areas where the virus is returning with the opening, we will have to have stronger restrictions again. At the same time, we have to do anything possible to make our economies recover again.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Ambassador, your colleague has praised Israeli reactions to the corona. What can you say about the Germans, about Germany?
Well, first of all, I really fully agree with everything that Susanne said, and I would like to say that I think one of the advantages that we had that was perhaps different from Germany, because every country has to adapt its policy to the reality that it finds itself in. And I think one of the most important aspects that we were really able at an early stage to control our borders in a more effective way. And Germany, obviously in the center and the heart of Europe, and it had a much more complex challenge to follow in that regard. And I think the fact that the steps that we took were early and really tough helped us keep control of all of the different numbers. But I do want to say about Germany, because I'm not just an observer here and I'm not just a diplomat, I was actually a client of the German health system when I was infected. And I was very impressed. They basically tested me very quickly after they informed me that I'd been in contact with somebody. There was already a very good system of testing and informing people, stay at home, don't go to the hospital. You don't need to go to the hospital, just go into isolation. Thank God it went very well, and I didn't need any other medical intervention. It was very mild, but the responsiveness was very high. But the thing that really impressed me was the readiness of the German system. I mean, today we're speaking of a system that has something in the region of 40,000 emergency intensive care units, which is an incredible amount compared to other countries on the continent. Mm-hmm. And I think the German health system found itself very, very well prepared in a way that other countries weren't for this. And again, mm-hmm. I think the testing has been efficient, the system of notifying people. And in that sense, look, the numbers have gone up. They've gone up everywhere, but in a way that has been under a higher measure of control, I'd say, in both countries and in relative terms than in other places. So I think that, I mean, I must say that, you know, when you're sitting here with your family in a country and this virus happens, you want to feel safe, and I felt very, very safe in Germany.
Okay. So let's get back.
As I did in Israel.
Yeah. Let's get back to the core of the relations, you know, assuming that we are going back to normalcy. And Madam You have mentioned already that the social fabric in Israel is different than that in Germany. And also, we have seen that, when the relation started between Israel and West Germany in 1965, Israel was a very different society than it is now. And of course, Germany has changed as well, it became quite different than it was in 1965. So are the relations still the unique relations that they were then at these times, or are they different now? Not only in quantity, but also in quality.
Should I start?
Yes, please.
Yes. Well, I think that since 1965, of course, these relations have developed incredibly, enormously. I mean, of course, during that period, the two countries have evolved tremendously. We have a unified Germany. Israel, that has almost 10 million inhabitants now, is a superpower when it comes to economy. I mean, the outer conditions changed a lot, but the relationship has become so broad. But from a German perspective, and I guess also from an Israeli perspective, it will always stay a unique relationship. The history that unites or that the two countries, the people of the two countries have experienced is, I mean, such a strong factor still and will stay in these relationships, that even if one can say that the everyday business is certainly comparable to the relationship Israel entertains with other big nations, but the whole spirit of the relationship is a very unique, particular one. For me, as an ambassador, I'm representing Germany in this country. I sometimes feel that the remembrance of the Shoah and this history of the Shoah makes the relationship with people who nevertheless, against all odds, have those contacts, strong contacts, sometimes with the embassy, makes this relationship even stronger than it can be with any other people in the world. So this is not my first ambassadorial position, Israel. It is a very, very particular, special experience that it is for me serving in that country. And I guess it will be for any German diplomat, it is for any German diplomat that serves at this embassy here.
So let me ask you the same question, Mr. Ambassador.
Well, recently actually somebody asked me, will the relationship between Israel and Germany ever normalize itself? And I said, well, we've gone way beyond having normal relations, because everything I can see, and since I've been here, and I always knew we had a strong relationship with Germany, but to be honest, even just as ambassador, every other day I find something that you see that the relationship is even more intense. And I fully agree with Susanne that this can never be a simple, and it can never be just another relationship that we have in other countries. But and the Holocaust has an impact in terms of, you can't ignore the history. But I think it's so important, and I think I find many partners on the German side that are with me in the fact that we have to remember the past, we have to respect the past, but we have to make sure that that past doesn't define our present relationship. And today when I speak, and I spoke to a very senior person in the foreign ministry just today, who talked about the strength of the relationship, and not just because of history, but because of the cooperation that we have developed in so many different areas. And I'm talking in the areas of security, defense, in the policy exchange between our countries, intelligence exchange, which serves at the end the purpose of fighting possible terrorism, whether against Germany or against Israel. And it's really for the benefit of both peoples. But in the area of cyber, the cooperation, as I've mentioned before, in the area of advanced scientific research, the cultural relations between the country are quite amazing. I remember several occasions. I mean, one of them that stuck in my mind was a memorial for Amos Oz in Germany, 500 people in Berlin in a theater coming to commemorate his memory, which I don't think is just something that happens every day, or even an evening in a packed theater with no more empty seats for Yiddish songs. Again, I look at these things these things don't happen all over the place. They happen in Germany. And I think that really touches on something which is very strong, is something which is growing, something which is developing. And again, today, I think that, the culture of remembrance, while it is very strong, we also have a culture of sustaining this relationship and making it grow. And I would, you mentioned a few terms. I feel I see a growing and developing strategic partnership between the two countries that works very much in both countries' interests and values. And that is the difference of what's happening today.
Let me ask you, Madame Ambassador, a question about the changes. I've already started asking that, but the support for Israel or friendship with Israel goes beyond party lines. But when one looks at the party map of Germany today, yes, are you still think that it will stay in the future? Because we have witnessed now a very long period of chancellorship by Angela Merkel, who is very popular in Israel. I think she's even more popular in Israel than she is in Germany. But very long period of chancellorship. What will happen in the future? I mean, there are some parties who voice more critique against Israel than others.
I mean, you are very right. During this long chancellorship of Angela Merkel, the relationship between Israel and Germany has intensified tremendously. I mean, it started that for the chancellor, the relationship with Israel was right from the beginning was a very central element for her. But then the speech 2008 in the Knesset, the annual G2G government-to-government consultations. There's many projects. I'm convinced that this will not change in the future. I'm convinced that the particularities in this relationship is it's part of kind of the German political tradition that will not be given up. There is a critique against Israel, of course, in Germany and also in the German society, but the special responsibility of Germany with regard to Israel, this is an element of consensus for all the responsible popular parties. I mean, I'm not speaking about extreme right-wing parties, but for the big, overwhelming majority of the German society and a big majority of the political parties in the Bundestag.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me turn to you, Mr. Ambassador, and ask you about the same thing that was raised here, and this is the changing face of Israeli party system and the changing face of German party system make perhaps for some tough decisions. I mean, should the embassy of Israel, also have connections or relation with all parties, all democratic parties elected to the Bundestag or to the Landtage in Germany?
Well, look, first of all, I want to say on the question that you've asked, number one, I think the contribution of the Chancellor to the special relationship between Israel, to the Stadträson, as she mentioned in 2008 in the Knesset, has really become a very, I'd say, a cornerstone of the bilateral relationship. And more importantly, it's not if then it was said in the context of there being a stronger and a resilient commitment of Germany to Israel's security, what I think it has evolved into is that this has also become a strong commitment of Israel to German security as well. In a whole range of different things that we work together. And for example, as I said, if Germany needs help in getting its citizens out of a very difficult situation and we can help, there is absolutely no hesitation on our part. From what serves Germany's interests also serves our interests. So I think that has had a tremendous effect by the Chancellor. And I join Susanne when she says that I think this will persist because we engage with all of the parties in the Bundestag, except I have to be frank with one particular party, with the Alternative for Deutschland. We've had no contacts with that party. And this was in September of 24th of 2017 when they were entered the Bundestag for the first time. This had a lot to do with the past and with the opinions expressed by its leaders in relation to the Shoah and the importance of the culture of remembrance, which I found incredibly strong in every single other party, whether it was a CDU, CSU, the SPD, or with the Greens, or with the Linke, or the Liberals. There was a very strong wall-to-wall consensus on that. But in any event, I felt I was not able, from any point of view, to have any contact with that party, given statements that had been made. And also the fact that, look, we have to be mindful. There are a lot of amazingly positive things that are happening. But I think as the President Steinmeier reminded everyone in his, I think, dramatic speech in Yad Vashem in January, this, the anti-Semitism and these darker parts of the history have not vanished. And we still have to deal with this phenomenon. And I think that from that point of view, I see a strong body politic in Germany that is willing to look at anti-Semitism as something that does not just harms or can threaten Jews or Israelis, but it threatens the democratic fiber of German society. And I think from that point of view, we will continue to have a very strong, robust dialogue with all elements of German society and German body politic, but not with the party that I've said.
Yes. And Madam Ambassador, I see that you are nodding when you hear the Israeli ambassador. Do you have anything to add to that? Do you want to add to
it? I think Jeremy is totally right in that. And when I think about, now celebrating 55 years of diplomatic relations, what is important for us for the future? I think this defense of our liberal democracies, the fight against racism, anti-Semitism, against populism, and all those movements that we witness at present, that kind of tries to attack our liberal Western democracies. I think this is something that will unite our two societies, particularly also in the future. I think we have to fight for that, and maybe the Corona crisis will, one of the impacts, long-term impact, will be that it accelerates or maybe strengthens also at least these discussions of which type of society or government is the one that is best equipped for the future. And I think there, both our countries are kind of built on experiences of catastrophes, of a catastrophe, and both our countries were built on human rights and the respect for human dignity, and we are all, both our societies are very related to, you know, science and research and truth. And I think that is something that I mean, a country like Israel, and we would also follow that, is best equipped to lead us into, or let us help to defend that.
Yes, you mentioned already the future, and I think that perhaps we'll move to the future and ask you about the future here in Germany, because Germany is going to be the president of the EU this coming year. And this is a very interesting mission or task. And also, do you think it will change something in our bilateral relations? Because, you know, Israel and Europe haven't seen all the time eye to eye on all things.
Well, it changed immediately something on our plans that we had for this presidency. But this presidency is very, very important for us. It will be important in the sense that we will continue to do anything possible for the unity of the European Union. The reaction in this crisis was not immediately the best of all that we would have wished for. But I mean, as you know, for Germany, the European Union is not just an option among many different. It has an existential value, and we think that this is the solution for many of our problems, and it's also a guarantee for our future. So we will fight for the unity of the European Union. But, you know, in a more concrete way, I mean, the reconstruction, economic reconstruction, the solidarity with those countries in the European Union that were particularly affected or are particularly affected will be very high on the agenda. We will continue with also the issue of fight against climate change. So the key word is green recovery. And we will use this particular moment to enhance and to strengthen the relationship also between the European Union and Israel. I very much hope that immediately after the swearing in of the new Israeli government, there will be a good start, a good new start between the new European institutions, the new Commission, and the new government. And I think this is something that we as EU presidency will very strongly work for.
Yes. So, Mr. Ambassador, will it make your task more difficult or perhaps easier when, you know, Berlin would be both the capital of Germany and the capital of Europe?
Look, first of all, I have to be honest with you. Since I've been in Germany now, it's almost 3 years. I can't imagine feeling more welcome and feeling so comfortable as an ambassador. So I don't think that's going to change anytime in the near future. So I felt good, and I'm sure this is going to continue. And you know, a lot of it is said from time to time that, well, you know, there are differences between Germany and Israel on some things. It could be on Iran, and it could be on the Palestinian issue. And I must say, even on these issues, in the ongoing day-to-day conversation, we should also bear in mind that, first of all, friends can disagree with each other on certain elements, number one. Number two, we actually agree on so many more elements of these subjects, whether it's the Iranian issue or the Palestinian issue. We have a tremendous body of agreement on the range of issues, and we can disagree on certain things. So I think if there are differences, it doesn't show you know, a crisis in the relationship. I think if anything, it shows that the relationship is sound and strong and can deal with these. And, you know, we have very good open discussions, and, you know, everyone, I think in Germany who I speak to knows exactly how I feel on various issues, and I know how they feel, and it's not a kind of complicated exchange. Now, looking to the future, I think that, you know, I obviously look forward to a new government being established in Israel. We've been through quite a turbulent time in Israeli politics. I thought when it took Germany 6 months to have the coalition negotiations, I didn't think in Israel it would take 3 elections. So we look forward to a new government. I believe that the basic relationship, as we've said, will stay very strongly in place, and I think we'll continue to be in a mode of development. I think that the issue of how we deal with issues like anti-Semitism, xenophobia, and racism that was made before, the points that we made before, will also stay on the agenda, and I understand of Germany as the president of the EU. I think I would be happy also to see climate issues come into play more in the relationship. We're already talking more about these issues. Israel has also dealt, and Germany is now dealing with a crisis in terms of water shortage. How does that impact the environment? And Israel and Germany, again, will discover a very large area in which they can exchange information and experience on this very crucial issue. So I think those are, and another thing which I think is really important will be to even more develop in a vigorous and dramatic way the youth exchange between our countries. To my mind, that is the most important strategic investment we can have in the future of the relationship. And I've seen so many impressive meetings of Israeli and German students, or Israelis and Germans from all different walks of life. And it's been so amazing to see how you think, such a connection could be complicated, sensitive, and everything, but you're amazed how quickly they find a common conversation, and the incredible impact that being in Israel, seeing for your own eyes, with all the things that you can find more difficult, less difficult, it has an amazing impact on people's perceptions. And that, again, I think is something that we should invest immense amount in. So I look to the future. I know that we'll continue to have a very vibrant conversation between our two countries. And again, sometimes we might agree and sometimes we might disagree, but in the end, I thoroughly believe that the intense core of the relationship will bring it to an even higher level in the coming years.
Well, we have talked a lot about friendship, so perhaps let me, for conclusion, ask you both, Jeremy and Susanne, to say directly things to each other.
Well,
it has always been fun to work with Jeremy, and from the very beginning, when I met him first, and I was allowed to enter the very much guarded embassy premises, the wonderful embassy premises of Jeremy in Berlin, I was allowed to enter them because I was his future colleague in Tel Aviv with my bicycle. So ever since we had good contacts. I love his good sense of humor, and he has always had advice for me, and it's just good to know him there. And I know it from all my colleagues in the ministry, how much they appreciate him at this position.
Jeremy.
Well, it's first of all, thank you very much for that. It's very moving, because I feel from the first minute I met Susanne that this was a friendship that already existed a long time, but now we were just discovering it, and it's been so, I think, helpful that when you have a relationship. I mean, one of the things I wanted to say before is that the relationship with Germany isn't just a complex and important relationship in and of itself. It's a bridge to Europe. And I think that, for me, the great, tremendous sense of friendship that I've discovered on a personal level with all of my German colleagues has enabled us to expand our conversations and understand each other so much more. And, it's become so clear that the relationship with Germany and Israel is very central to us. And I really appreciate Susanne's collegiality, her friendship, and I'm so happy that somebody finds my sense of humor pleasant, but I really appreciate it.
Well, so on this happy note, let me just thank you very, very much for this lovely conversation. And we hope for the next 55 years and more. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, David.
Shalom,
Thank you very
shalom.
much, Jeremy. All the best to both of you.
Bye.
Thank you so much, Susanne. It's such a privilege to work opposite you. And
Yeah,
David,
it's fun
thank
to
you very
see
much.
you.
Okay.
Litraut.
Litraut.
Shalom.